The entertainment world loves unforgettable television moments. Sometimes an interview is filled with laughter, sometimes it creates headlines. And occasionally a simple conversation suddenly takes an unexpected turn. Today, we're looking at a dramatized what-if scenario, imagining what could happen if Adam Lambert and Kelly Clarkson found themselves in an interview that slowly unraveled into an emotional confrontation. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's dive into the story. The studio was buzzing with excitement as the audience waited for the next guest. Kelly Clarkson welcomed viewers with her familiar energy and warm smile before introducing Adam Lambert. The crowd erupted into applause as he walked onto the stage, greeting everyone with confidence before taking his seat across from Kelly. At first, everything felt exactly as fans would expect. The two exchanged friendly smiles, shared a few light jokes, and reflected on Adam's remarkable career. Kelly praised his journey from American Idol to becoming the frontman touring with Queen, calling it one of the most impressive career transformations in modern music. Adam thanked her politely. "It's definitely been an incredible ride," he replied. "There have been challenges, but I'm grateful for every opportunity." For a moment, the interview flowed naturally. The audience relaxed, expecting another enjoyable celebrity conversation. Then Kelly shifted the discussion. She mentioned how today's music industry constantly debates authenticity, asking whether audiences sometimes question artists who rise to fame through reality television instead of more traditional paths. The atmosphere changed almost instantly. Adam didn't answer immediately. He paused for a few seconds, carefully considering the question before responding. "Authenticity means different things to different people," he said calmly. "Success doesn't come from where you start, it comes from the work you put in afterward." Kelly nodded but continued exploring the subject. She wondered aloud whether some performers receive advantages through television exposure that other musicians never experience. Adam's expression subtly changed. He leaned back slightly, his smile beginning to fade. "It almost sounds like you're suggesting people who came from shows like American Idol somehow earned their success differently," he said. Kelly quickly clarified that she wasn't referring to him personally. She explained she was speaking about the industry in general and wanted his perspective. But Adam didn't appear convinced. "I understand the question," he replied, "but context matters. When someone asks me that after mentioning reality television, it's hard not to feel like my own career is part of the discussion." The audience, which had been laughing only moments earlier, grew noticeably quieter. Kelly tried to keep the conversation moving. She explained that many fans are curious about how artists maintain credibility in an industry driven by image, branding, and social media. Adam answered more firmly this time. "I've spent years proving myself on stages around the world," he said. "Long before television introduced me to millions of people, I was performing because I loved music. A TV show opened a door, but it didn't create my passion or my talent." The tension in the room became impossible to ignore. Even Kelly seemed to recognize that the conversation was drifting into uncomfortable territory. She smiled politely and attempted to soften the mood. "I'm only trying to have an honest discussion," she said. Adam nodded slowly. "I appreciate honest discussions," he replied. "But there's a difference between exploring an idea and asking questions that can sound like someone's achievements need to be justified." For the first time since the interview began, the studio audience stopped reacting altogether. Everyone seemed to sense that the conversation was heading somewhere neither guest had expected. Kelly took a deep breath before asking another question, and that's when the interview truly began to change. Kelly took a slow breath before continuing. "I think what many people wonder," she said carefully, "is whether artists today face different expectations than they did even 10 years ago. Talent is still important, of course, but image seems to play a much bigger role." Adam listened without interrupting. When she finished, he folded his hands together and answered in a calm, measured voice. "Image has always mattered in entertainment," he said. "What's changed is how visible everything has become. Social media gives people the impression they know an artist personally. But what really keeps a career alive is consistency. If the music isn't there, the audience eventually moves on." Several people in the audience applauded. Kelly smiled. "That's a fair point," she admitted. "But don't you think television competitions sometimes give contestants an advantage that independent musicians don't have?" The room became quiet again. Adam's expression hardened ever so slightly. An advantage, he repeated. Kelly nodded. I'm saying the exposure is enormous. It is, Adam replied. But exposure isn't the same as success. Plenty of contestants disappear. After the cameras stop rolling, staying relevant takes years of work that nobody sees. The audience responded with another round of applause. Kelly acknowledged the reaction before asking another question. So when critics say reality show performers have an easier path, how do you respond? Adam let out a quiet laugh. I usually don't. Kelly looked surprised. You don't? No, he answered. Because I've learned that no matter how much you accomplish, someone will always try to reduce your journey to a single moment. He paused. For some people, I'll always just be the guy from American Idol. They don't see the years of theater, live performances, songwriting, rehearsals, and constant touring that came before and after. The sincerity in his voice changed the mood. Even Kelly seemed to recognize the emotion behind his answer. I understand that, she said, but do you ever feel frustrated when people question your authenticity? Adam looked directly at her. I don't mind genuine curiosity, he replied. What becomes frustrating is when questions are framed in a way that already assumes there's something to defend. Kelly hesitated. That isn't what I'm trying to do. I hope not. Adam answered politely. But that's honestly how it feels from where I'm sitting. A ripple of murmur spread through the audience. The conversation had clearly moved away from light entertainment and into something much more personal. Kelly shifted in her chair. I think we're looking at the same issue from different perspectives, maybe, Adam replied. But words matter. The way a question is asked can completely change how it's received. Kelly nodded thoughtfully. So what would you rather people focus on? Adam smiled for the first time in several minutes. The music, he gestured toward the audience. I've spent decades working on albums, touring across continents, collaborating with incredible musicians, and growing as an artist. That's what I'd rather talk about, not whether I somehow earned my place. The audience applauded again. Kelly waited for the applause to settle before speaking. I never intended to suggest you didn't earn it. I appreciate you saying that, Adam replied. But you can probably understand why questions about legitimacy get exhausting after hearing them for years. For a brief moment, it looked as though the tension had eased. Both smiled politely. The audience relaxed. It seemed the interview had found its footing again. Then Kelly introduced one final thought. I suppose the bigger question is whether audiences are looking for authenticity or simply a good story. Adam's smile faded. He leaned forward slightly. I think authenticity is the story. The room fell silent. His answer carried a weight that immediately caught everyone's attention. Kelly opened her mouth to respond. Adam, meanwhile, sat perfectly still, waiting to hear where the conversation would go next. No one in the studio realized that the next exchange would completely change the atmosphere of the interview. Kelly sat quietly for a moment, choosing her next words with care. I think what audiences really connect with, she began, is honesty. They want artists to feel genuine. That's why conversations like this matter. Adam nodded. I agree, but honesty has to go both ways. Kelly looked at him, slightly puzzled. What do you mean? I mean, Adam replied, if we're going to have an honest conversation, let's also acknowledge the assumptions that often come with questions like these. The audience listened in complete silence. Adam continued, when someone asks whether artists from talent competitions are authentic, it sends a message even if that wasn't the intention. It suggests that people like me have something to prove before we're taken seriously. Kelly immediately responded, I don't think that's fair. I was asking about the industry, not about you. Adam gave a small smile. I understand that's what you meant, but intent and impact aren't always the same thing. Those words hung in the air. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Kelly finally broke the silence. So, are you saying my question offended you? Adam answered honestly, I'm saying it disappointed me. The audience reacted with soft murmurs. Kelly shifted in her chair. I've interviewed hundreds of artists over the years. Challenging conversations are part of the job, and I respect that. Adam replied, but challenging someone and making them feel like they have to defend their entire career are two different things. The energy inside the studio had changed completely. The light-hearted interview everyone expected had become an intense discussion about respect, perception, and the pressures. Artist's face. Kelly sighed. I still think you're reading more into my question than I intended. Adam looked directly at her. And I think you're overlooking how it sounded from my side. Neither raised their voice. Neither interrupted, yet the tension between them was unmistakable. The audience could feel it. Kelly tried to redirect the interview. Let's talk about your upcoming tour. Adam remained silent for a moment. Then he slowly shook his head. I wish we'd started there. Kelly blinked. What do you mean? I came here excited to celebrate new music, Adam said. Instead, we've spent most of this interview discussing whether my journey somehow deserves an asterisk. Kelly immediately objected. That was never my point. Maybe not, Adam answered. But that's where this conversation ended up. The audience remained completely silent. Even the band members stopped moving. Kelly leaned forward. I genuinely respect everything you've accomplished. Adam nodded politely. I appreciate hearing that. But respect isn't only something you say. It's something people feel. Those words landed heavily across the studio. Kelly looked down for a second before speaking again. If I've made you feel otherwise. She paused. Then I'm sorry. Adam accepted the apology with a small nod. Thank you. Another long silence followed. Kelly hoped the conversation had finally settled, but Adam slowly stood from his chair. The audience gasped. Kelly looked surprised. Adam. He adjusted his jacket before answering. I think this is where I'll leave it. Kelly raised a hand. We don't have to end it like this. Adam offered a polite smile. I think we've both said everything we needed to say. He thanked the audience for their support before turning toward the edge of the stage. The cameras follow every step. No shouting. No dramatic gestures. Just a quiet decision to step away from a conversation that had clearly become uncomfortable. Kelly remained seated, watching him leave with a thoughtful expression. The studio stayed silent until Adam disappeared backstage. Only then did the audience slowly begin applauding, not because they had witnessed a fight, but because they had witnessed two people with very different perspectives trying, and ultimately failing, to find common ground. Whether viewers sided with Kelly or Adam would quickly become the biggest debate online. One thing, however, was certain. Sometimes the most memorable television moments aren't created by loud arguments. Sometimes they're created by a single decision: to stand up, walk away, and let the audience decide the rest.